Hello, everyone. Welcome to CodeHawk's contest today. Hope you're as excited as we are. Today, we're going to be going through a very special code base because this is the first of a series of first flights that we're going to be throwing up around. So with us today, we have Rockstar Patrick Collins in the house. Say hi.
Hello. How we doing, everybody?
Good. And so first off, Patrick, why don't you take us a bit through what these first flights are and why do they matter? What's the idea behind them?
Yeah. So the idea behind first flights is a lot of feedback that we've gotten from more junior security researchers is that a lot of these security research, a lot of these audits, a lot of these security reviews are incredibly daunting, right? They're very scary. It's very difficult to get in. It's very difficult to find bugs, and it can be very discouraging, right? And we think that we can unlock a lot more security researchers if we make kind of a stepping stone in here between going for like a super competitive smart contract audit and being a brand new security researcher. So these first flights are these stepping stones. So these are code bases, at least these first ones. These are code bases that we have come up with, we have built. Some of these are actually going to be in the new smart contract security course that we're coming out with. So this is actually also a little bit of a sneak peek for those of you who want to take that course. And it's a chance to give you a very small code base, or small enough. Some of the future ones are a little bit bigger. A small enough code base where you can find some stuff, right? And get some more hyper fine-tuned feedback, very quickly work with other security researchers to find things, because there's no money at stake, right? And that's the beauty of this. There's no money at stake. So it's a way to be more collaborative and be more educational and teach people how to learn and grow when it comes to security, because we need as many security researchers in Web3 as we can get. So that's the idea, Juliet. Oh, you're muted.
Classic. Nice. Love that, Patrick. Thank you so much for sharing. So take us a bit through about this first code base that we'll be reviewing. What's it about?
So this first one is really small. I almost felt bad. I was like, this might be insulting, but then I was like, oh no, this will be perfect. This will be a really good warm up, because the next ones are going to be a little bit larger, right? So the largest code base so far, these first flights, is going to be 400 lines of code. I'm actually working right now to make it smaller so it's easier, but most of them are going to be around 100, 200, less than that lines of code. This first one is incredibly small. This is like, let me pull it up actually. This is like almost no lines of code. This is like I'm looking at right now, this is like maybe 20 or 30 lines of actual code. It's very, very small. So the idea behind this project is, and then actually let me even just pull up the repo here, because this actually talking about the code base, actually good to segue into like what are we looking for as well. So let me do a share screen. One second here. Okay, lovely. Okay, cool. So here's the entire repo of this code base. In this PasswordStore code base. So one of the first things that actually, so it's 20 lines of code, literally 20 NSLOC. For those of you who are new here, NSLOC is a way security researchers figure out how big a code base is. Complexity is also a way they do that, but just ignore that for now. NSLOC counts the number of actual lines of code. So if we go into this smart contract, which this is the only smart contract here, it'd be like doing 1, 2, 3. This is blank, so we'd skip 4, 5, skip 7, blank, et cetera, and actually count all the lines of code in here. This is around 20 lines of code, and it gives smart contract security researchers a chance to estimate how long it's going to take for them to do one of these reviews, right? Because after you do enough smart contract security reviews or enough smart contract audits, I'll use those a little bit interchangeably, you'll start to get a good feel of how long it's going to take you. And actually, that's really important for when you're estimating cost to somebody, right? If a protocol comes to you for a solo audit or something and they say, hey, we want this audit done, you can very quickly see how many lines of code it is, and then actually use that to estimate the cost. One of the tools that I use to estimate lines of code is this Solidity metrics. Can you actually see that if I right click that? No, you can't see that. There's this extension called Solidity. This extension called Solidity metrics. It looks like this in VS Code. It allows you to very quickly come up with the complexity, the lines of code of a Solidity code base. And then additionally for that only works for Solidity. Sometimes you might do a security review on non-Solidity code bases. What you would do there is you do use this tool called CLOC, count, which stands for like count lines of code. So you do like CLOC, the path of the folder of all your code, and this would give you kind of an output that looks like this, where it says, hey, the language is Solidity. There's one file, 6 blank lines, 15 comment lines, and then 20 lines of code, which is exactly what we have in the code base. So, Juliet, I'm actually not answering a question. Let me get to that. So, tell you a little bit about the code base. What are we doing here? What is this PasswordStore? So, this is perfect because this is the first step any smart contract security researcher needs to do for these secure, either whether it's competitive or solo, any of these smart contract audits. The first thing you need to do is gain context. What are you doing? What are you looking at? So let's look at this first flight code base. And this is typically in the README or the documentation is where you can find that. We're going to look at the README for this. And then for those of you who don't know where this code base is, I'm going to post this into the chat here, put it up on screen. This is the code base that we're looking at for this competition. Yes, we have an answer key. No, I'm not going to share it with you until the end of the contest. So in any case, so we have this. It's got a fun little logo and everything. We scroll down and we can already start reading the about. PasswordStore. It's a smart contract application for storing a password. Users should be able to store a password and then retrieve it later. Others should not be able to access the password. So this is really the high-level summary of what this code base should do. And this is incredibly important because oftentimes finding bugs in a Solidity or a smart contract code base are less about like weird coding, cryptography, oh my God, crazy stuff. It's actually more about making sure the business logic does what it says it should do, right? So here we're saying users should be able to store a password and then retrieve it later. So that's going to be functionality that we're going to be looking for in this code base. Others should not be able to access the password. We're going to be looking for that as well. And a lot of us have used, well, hopefully you've used some type of secure password encryption thing in your journey in Web3 at some point. And you can kind of keep a lot of that in mind as well, right? Okay, what have you done before? What types of tools have you worked with before that do kind of some password storing? What do they do? What are their security parameters? How should they act? And keeping all that business context in your mind is actually going to help you a lot when it comes to these. So this is what we're doing for this. This is what the code base should do. The more docs, the better. So there's some more docs here about how to get this set up. There's some Gitpod. You can do Anvil stuff. Then we can scroll down. We can go to capabilities, roles, and known issues. So I actually have a ton of known issues because we actually audited this before the competition. Again, like I was saying, this is we've already audited this. This is a chance for you to audit this. So yes, there are a lot of known issues, but let's see if you can find them. And maybe you can find even more than we did. So we scroll down here. This is fantastic. We have this audit scope details. So we have the commit hash. We have the commit hash, which is obviously the git commit that we're specifically going to be working with here. We have the Sulk version to compile with. We have the chains to deploy with. We have a list of roles, no known issues, and then we have some tips here on how you can create your own audit report if you would like to do so later. So that's kind of the about. I'd love to walk through the code base, Juliet, unless you have any other questions, any other thoughts before we jump in here.
No, go for it. You answered my question. Excited to see it through.
All right, lovely. All right, let me just take a quick swig of water here. All right, cool. Let's do it. So, who in the chat? Wait, let's get a raise of hands here. Hold on, I'm going to remove this. Let me see in the chat. Who here in the chat post hi or me or something? Who here has never done a smart contract security researcher? A smart contract security review, an audit, anything like that? Let me know in the chat if you have never done one. Let me know if you've done them before, but you're looking to get better. Just let me know where you are in your security researcher journey, in your developer journey. Where are you? This will give me a better idea of how to focus the rest of this talk here. Where are you in your security research journey? What are you looking to get out of this call, etc.? And then any questions that you all have, because I'm just going to be ripping through code. And yes, some of the code that I wrote is intentionally bad. So, put it there for fun, right? It's bad code for fun. Okay, a couple people waving their hands. Great. Looking to get better. Okay. This is going to be your first. Okay, welcome. All right, perfect. This is exactly for you. Yes. People have to run Forge install Foundry because the binned folder is not repo. Good call. Maybe we'll have to update the docs. Complete newbie developer. Never done any. This is my first. Let me just put some of these on screen. Never done any. This is my first. Excellent. Complete newbie developer. Starting auditing familiar with Solidity more than a year. I've never done one. Please talk about how the reports should be written. Okay, great. Complete noob. This is my first time. Excellent. This is perfectly for you. Done only once. Beetle at CodeHawks. Great. That was a great one, actually, because of the number of bugs in that one. I'd like to see the creation of a CodeHawks account and demo of a submission. That is really a good idea. Maybe we'll do that in this call too. That is a great idea. Looking to upskill myself. Okay, cool. So we have a lot of beginner security researchers. Perfect. This is exactly for you. This is exactly for you all here. I'm mainly interested in how to prepare some. Maybe we just say F it. We'll just create a. I don't want to get. What's that?
I was going to say that seems like a great video that we should be working on.
Yeah, I don't want to give away the answer key though. Maybe for the next one we'll do one because there's going to be a lot more bugs in the next one. This one has, because the code base is so small. Yeah, actually that's a good idea. The next one we'll walk through doing one on code. Actually, no, maybe we'll just do one today. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Okay. We'll see what the people want. We'll see what the people want today. Okay. So here is our wonderful code base. Author, not so secure dev. Haha, that's me. So now there's a couple different methods to actually start looking at. Hold on. There's a couple different methods to actually start looking at your code base. We are going to follow for this. We're going to follow kind of something called, like, I call it the Tincho method. Tincho, he's a smart contract security researcher, absolute phenomenal developer. Let me post a link to the video. We did a video with him where he explains his exact process for auditing a code base. He ends up, using this process we show in this video to audit the ENS code base. And it's so funny because we scheduled that call and he's like, yeah, I'm auditing ENS right now, or I'm doing a security review in ENS right now. Here's what I'm looking at. Here's how I'm doing it. And 2 weeks later, he found a vulnerability, got paid out $100,000, right? So this is like literally we saw like real time him kind of finding this $100,000 vulnerability. Well, it was actually a much larger vulnerability, but he was just paid out $100,000. So great. Submit a fake one. Great. Actually, we'll submit a fake one. Cool. And I'm going to try to not give away anything here because yes, there are bugs intentionally put in here. So the Tincho method is to start with the smallest contracts and get bigger and bigger. Obviously, there's only one contract in this code base. So let's go ahead and get context, right? Let's say, how does this work? Maybe the first thing we do is let's try to compile it, right? What's the README say? How do we actually compile this? So we scroll up. We've got some stuff here. Okay, Forge build. Great. Let's try running Forge build. Let's just see if stuff compiles. Forge build. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, cool. We have some issues here. This is already great, right? So I need to update this would be something where we would go back to the sponsor and be like, hey, you need to update the repo. So the test is missing. So we're going to have to update this. Yeah, lib folder, not bin folder, right? So we got to do. Yeah, why don't we have that folder? Do I just need to do forge install forge std? Actually, hold on. Let me cheat. One second. And then I'm going to update this afterwards to make your lives easier. Sorry about this, guys. Make file. That's what I want. This is what I want. Okay. Yeah. Forge install foundry-rs, forge std, no commit. Let's do that. Now we should be able to run forge build because we should have a lib folder now. Yep, we sure do. Okay, cool. I'm going to have to update the docs. Sorry about that, guys. So we have to install the foundry Foundry library first. Okay, cool. So compiler run successful. Great. Okay, what else can we do? Okay, so we built it. Once I fix that, next we can do, we could run that. We could run that. Tests are probably what I really care about. So we're going to run the test. And we're going to run forge test. And this is really just kind of all getting context. We can see that there's 2 tests in here. That actually might tip me off. Oh, that's kind of small. I might then run forge coverage, see how much test coverage there is in this code base. And this will give me a good idea of maybe where to look. So this actually is perfect, right? So we see here, this actually has 100% test coverage. So it doesn't really give me a good idea of where to look. But I could also, it's great that it does have 100% test coverage because that means I can usually go to the tests for some inspiration later on if I need. But okay, cool. So we've run the test, we built the contracts. Let's go ahead now. Let's just actually jump into the hard part of actually walking through the code. Now, this code base, as I was saying, is really small. So it's pretty, it's not going to take a long time to walk through the code, but this is often the scariest part of this whole process, right? Because it can be incredibly daunting and incredibly terrifying to walk into, like if you opened the Uniswap code base, if you've never seen it before, it can be terrifying, be like, oh my God, there is so much code here that I have to walk through, right? That can be really terrifying. So don't let that get to you. Just take a deep breath. Know that it's going to take you a long time. For this one, it's not going to take you that long time, but for other code bases, know it's going to take you a long time. Be okay with that. Get ready to do it in chunks, right? You're not going to bang the whole thing out once. Maybe sometimes even reading the docs will take me a couple of days, right? And that's totally fine. But anyways, so let's walk through the code base. So we see Pragma 0.8.18, and even now, just by reading these first lines, we want to start thinking about, okay, is that the latest version of Solidity? Are there any issues with this version of Solidity? This is actually the version that is currently being recommended by this tool called Slither. I'll run Slither in a little bit. So for now, I'm like, okay, this is probably a very stable version of Solidity. I'm okay. Cool. Let's keep going. Contract PasswordStore. It looks like this is the only contract here, right? Okay, cool. In VS Code, you can do these fun little drop downs here. Great. This contract allows you to store a private password. Let's do a word wrap. This contract allows you to store a private password that others won't be able to see. You can update your password at any time. So this is already starting to give me hints. Others shouldn't be able to see this password. You should be able to update your password. So this is some functionality I'm going to be looking for. This is kind of more documentation, more context for me. All right, but great. So I scroll down, I see some events, I see some state variables, I see an error, some state variables, some events. We have a constructor with this S owner. So it looks like this password store is going to be ownable. So this line here says, okay, the owner of this contract is going to be whoever deploys this contract. Okay, great. So maybe there's some only owner functions. Okay, cool. But this part looks pretty innocuous to me. Doesn't look like there's anything wrong here. And it looks like there's only 2 functions. So all of the functionality that we're going to be working with is either going to be in set password or get password, right? And this is why this is a great starter code base, because it's so small. So we look at this this set password function. And we see, okay, we'll read the docs of this. This function allows only the owner to set a new password. New password, and the parameters are the new password is set. So we go back up, we see, okay, so the owner is whoever deploys this password store. They're going to be the ones who should be able to set the password. They're going to be the ones who should be able to see the password and update the password. So we see this set password function takes a string memory new password. All it does is it updates password equals new password, and then it emits an event without the password in it, of course, and emits an event with set new password, right? And actually, if we probably go to the tests here, we scroll down, we can actually see a test doing exactly that. Test owner can set password, right? So expected password is my new password. PasswordStore.set password. They call get password, and they make sure that the password they set is what was expected to be set. Okay. So that's what this function does. And then we have this get password, where we see here, this is the important line. If message.sender does not equal sOwner, it reverts, right? So the idea here is this allows only the owner of the contract to retrieve the password and returns the password, right? So if message.sender is not owner, revert, only allow the owner to call this password and then return the password. So that's the entire code base. And I'm sure a couple of you might have spotted some bugs just by that walkthrough, but that's the I'm going to pretend for a second that I don't know there are any bugs in this. That's the code base. I'm so proud of it, blah, blah, blah. This is a way to store passwords safely on chain. But that's the code base. So before I continue on, are there any questions, Jules, from you two, or anybody from the audience? Are there any questions? Oh, docs are updated. Oh, thank you so much, Equius. Really appreciate that. Are there any questions? Okay. Just going through Foundry AI course. I'm now at lesson 9. I want to know if I should jump into first flight or focus on finishing the course first. Never done an audit before. So to be honest, you can always do these at the same time, right? So one of the cool things about jumping in and just doing stuff is you'll be able to look back very soon, like within the next couple months, and go, wow, I am so much better, right? And jumping into a first flight and really struggling with it right now, well, you'll actually be able to see that progress, right? And typically, anytime you finish a course, you finish one of these courses, you'll see me say this in the video. I will say, hey, all right, you're done with courses. Go do stuff now, right? So you jumping into a first flight, you jumping into a smart contract security audit is you doing stuff, right? And you can always and should always think about, okay, how do I do stuff? Where can I actually apply that knowledge that I've just learned? Because that's what's going to teach you. That's what's going to learn. That's what's going to learn you. That's how you're going to learn so much faster, right? So yes, you can jump in before finishing it. If you feel like it's a little bit intimidating, great. You can just you can absolutely finish the course first. But yes, you can absolutely jump in beforehand. So it's really whatever you want to do. Can hard hat be used instead of Foundry? You could. So this is actually a really interesting question for not the reason that you think probably. Before Foundry got popular, what a lot of security researchers were doing were they were rewriting hard hat test suites in Foundry because Foundry is so much faster. And that's obviously a huge waste of time, but the speed up that they got for rewriting it in Foundry was just amazing. So yes, you can do the reverse. You can rewrite, the test suite in hard hat, but for this code base, for example, the protocol wrote this in Foundry, right? And you're going to run into that a lot. Like the protocol is going to write their code base in whatever they want to write their code base in, right? So for this example, they did Foundry. If you're more comfortable with hard hat, you can absolutely kind of write your own hard hat harness. And actually, we do see some security researchers do that. Like they bring their own tools. You can use whatever tools work best for you. Great question. With 100% test coverage, how can we be sure the tests are correct? Just 100% doesn't mean they are right. Correct. 100% test coverage doesn't really mean anything. Kind of. Yes and no. So it's a good indicator to the developers. Hey, remember to test this path, right? But you could get 100% test coverage and all your tests are terrible, right? So test coverage to you as a security researcher is great to see. It actually is really helpful. It tells you that the developers are taking testing and security seriously. However, they could have written them terribly. So we can't be sure the tests are correct. And as security researchers, oftentimes I just assume that they wrote crappy tests. Great question. Jump out of the nest, baby. Lovely. I've spotted it. Oh, okay, excellent. Looking forward to you submitting that. You can integrate Hardhat into Foundry. Yep. What's the percentage pros using Hardhat versus Foundry now? Roughly. Foundry is a lot faster. One of the biggest things that you'll see me do on code bases whenever I'm actually doing an audit is, so I will run tests, and I'll actually write a lot of my own tests just to like kind of tinker and experiment. And one of the ways and let's say like this test suite was like, this one's small. So if I run Forge test, right, it's like 2 tests in here. But when you get really big, really advanced products, they can have thousands of tests, right? And the more tests you have, the longer it takes to run. So what I will do a lot of the time is I'll run like Forge test --mt and then paste like the name of the test, and that'll run just that single test, right? You see how it says running one test as opposed to when I ran Forge test, which ran everything. So in Foundry, running let me just pull this down for a second so people can see. So in Foundry, running these single tests is substantially faster. In Hardhat, it is a lot slower. Hardhat's still a great tool. The JavaScript everywhere mentality is great. The biggest difference is speed. All the pros, right, and Brownie.
Yeah, if I can jump in there, Patrick, I think beyond that, something else that's been super interesting for me using Foundry is how it's entirely based on Solidity. So you just get to like triple down on that skill versus in Hardhat, you still have to leverage some JavaScript, which may not be native to all engineers. So that's also, I think, a big plus. Writing just your code and your test all in Solidity is quite nice.
Yeah, it's spot on. 100%. Okay, great. Any other questions? Do we need some knowledge to finance and DeFi to get into auditing? Great question. So this actually gets into the idea of specialization. So a lot of security researchers have special industry-specific knowledge. And what was the first step we took of this code base? What was the first step we took? Actually, I'm going to pause. I'm going to wait for you to answer. What is the first step you always take in a smart contract audit or a smart contract security review? What is the first step you should take? Does anyone know? There's a slight delay between me talking and people posting stuff. So what is the first step? Read the docs. Exactly. First thing you do is read the docs. First thing you do is you get context for the code base. So to your question, do I need to know about DeFi? If you're going to be auditing a protocol that is about automated market making or is a flash loan protocol, well, yeah, you sure better know about what flash loans do. You sure better know about what an AMM is, right? So like I was saying, a lot of bugs are actually business logic bugs. So in order for you to understand business logic, yes, you're going to need to understand DeFi. However, maybe you're auditing an NFT contract, right? Like a randomized NFT or something. Do you need to know anything about DeFi to audit that? No, because it doesn't have anything to do with DeFi, right? So you need to understand the business logic of the protocol. You need to understand the intent of the protocol. So if the protocol is a finance application, you should understand the financial terms of that application. Hopefully that makes sense. What does Slither do? Great question. Let's run that, shall we? So Slither is a tool, and I'm going to run it just by doing this. It might not work so simply for you. But Slither is a tool. It's called a static analysis tool. It's a way to very kind of unintelligently go through a code base and kind of pattern match. It looks for very obvious bugs, but it is a phenomenal tool for catching a lot of obvious bugs to prevent a protocol from making a really silly mistake, right? These tools help us as security researchers do stuff, and you can see, excuse me, I wanted to do I have it in my make file actually? Slither? Oh, no, I don't. Hold on. I'm going to Give me a sec. Let me give you the better command. Actually gonna super cheat. If I use this, like, I use something called like a slither config whenever I run slither. I guess I'm giving you a little bit of alpha, just because there's a lot of flags that I like to run. I like to exclude some detectors, filter out some paths. But cool. So now we have that. So I'm giving you a little bit of hidden alpha here. And now when I run slither, run this command slither dot, which says this current repo, use this config file, which has like a whole bunch of stuff. Don't worry too much about slither for now. In future first flights, we will have more like really cool slither commands come with the code base. So don't worry about slither too much for now, but this is like how I would run my slither tool, like if I was actually doing a security review on this. Just like this with this config. You can read more about the slither tool. Let me post a link to slither. But this will give you, we'll be able to actually see what this outputs. It takes a little bit to run because it's a pretty big Pythonic code base. And as much as I love Python, Python doesn't have great performance. Viper has great performance, though. Viper is a killer smart contract language. Speaking of which, if there's still time to enter the Viper competitive compiler audit, by the way, if anybody who wants to get into on that. But yeah, like I said, what this is going to do, it's going to read this code base, and it's just going to give us kind of dumbly outputs of like, hey, I think you might have a reentrancy here. I think you might have a common vulnerability here. I think you might have an issue there, etc. And it's going to take a hot minute.
Right. So for just to expand on what Patrick was sharing earlier, there is a Viper contest going on that's on Python. So if any of you are Python engineers, it's your time to bridge in these insights. Super exciting. I think we still have maybe like 2 more weeks to go. So make sure to check that out. Yeah,
definitely. And while this is running, somebody else asked, do we need to run the for analyzer beforehand? In your docs, it says whatever is there is not valid. Finding for contests, we will run it and put it into the known issues list. We didn't run it on this one just because we wanted there to be more bugs. So there's not a lot of bugs in this, obviously, because it's a very small code base. There can only be so many bugs. But yeah, we didn't run it. This is taking a lot longer than maybe I broke something. Could be an issue with my Python environment, actually. So I just killed it and reran it. If it doesn't output, all good. I'll have to figure out what's wrong with my slither later. So cool. So there's a couple more questions. Yeah, Jules, why don't we I'll answer the last couple questions, and then actually, if you want, let's pretend we found something, and we'll show people how to actually submit stuff on CodeHawks. Perfect. Okay, cool. So last couple questions here. Cypher runs it over the code base beforehand, but yep, exactly. Is there any way to test bridging? Some videos on cross-chain operability might be good. Really broad question. The thing that's tough about bridges is actually most of the hacks that we see are just like, people are like, oh yeah, we should do something on bridge hacks, but it's like most of them are just centralized, classic centralized issues. A lot of these protocols, their bridges are centralized and their keys get leaked and they steal all the funds, right? It's not like a really sophisticated, crazy, it's just like, yo, whoops, like you shouldn't have had it centralized and, you know, expose your keys, or you shouldn't have put all your nodes on like the same VM. Is this session recorded? Yes. Will Cypher eventually do bot races? We would something different. But we do want to contribute to open sourced static analysis tools for sure. Usually do manual reviews before using automated tools. You can kind of do them whenever. Sometimes, for me, the lowest hanging fruit is to run automated tools. So I pretty much always run the automated tools first. Yep, for those interested in the Viper contest, unless my automated tool is like taking forever for some reason. I think there's something wrong with my Python environment. It's fine, whatever. How about QA's gas, low severity, best practices for this contest? So this is low, mediums, and highs. We'll walk you through actually how to submit one. Where to check for Viper audit? Could you let us know? It's in CodeHawks. So it's right here. If you go to CodeHawks, it's right at the top. All right, cool. Since there are no more questions, Jules, I guess I'm turning it over to you. You want to let's pretend we found something. Let's pretend we found something and we want to submit it. And sorry that I'll also try to figure out. Oh my God, it finished. Hold on. My Slither just finished running as I was about to.
Classic live coding.
Yep. I was about to be like, yep. So it finished running. And this is the only thing it came out with, which is like crazy that it took that long for just this. Something must be wrong with my environment that's taking so long. But so this is already good. PasswordStore s_owner should be immutable, right? And so this is phenomenal because we go back to our code base, right? We can see s_owner is never updated. So Slither sees that it's never updated and it can never be updated. So it goes, oh, why are you using a storage variable? It should be immutable. That way you can save a lot of gas whenever you're calling it. So Slither also has a lot of gas detectors, and this was one of them. And you can even click the link and go to the documentation on this specific detector to learn more. So great. So this is some great feedback. No, this would not be a valid finding because this is a gas improvement. Gas improvements are not acceptable in this specific contest. In other contests, sometimes they are. So that is what Slither does, and it's really helpful. Cool. All right. Turning it over to you, Jules. Some people found this issue already. Excellent.
Nice. Love it.
Excellent.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Patrick, for that run through. Especially, I think, just seeing through your process. I learned a lot, gain context, deploy the project locally, make sure to run all of the commands that are within the README, check out the test coverage. Is it 100%? Where is it lacking? Potentially, there's some weaker areas there. Digest the code base in chunks, look at the versions, make sure we understand exactly what the contracts is supposed to do. Sometimes it's business logic, sometimes it may be some other, Solidity specific types of bugs, but certainly getting that context of what it's meant to do is critical, as well as getting familiar with the roles, access controls, entry points, using tools like Slither or Analyzer to just get a bit of the baseline out of the way. And then just assuming that all of the tests are badly written and that potentially we could also write our own and inspect exactly what's happening in the code base. So those were some of the key learnings that I got from your showdown, Patrick. Thank you so much for taking us through that. Now, some people have been asking for submissions. If you want to take us through how to submit a finding in CodeHawks, I think that'd also be amazing for people to get kick-started.
Yes. All right. So I'll actually, I'll walk through that. And then we have a couple of, we actually have a couple of demos coming up in the future where we'll walk actually building audit reports and everything. So we're not going to do that on this call, but in some of the future ones, and then definitely my security course will actually show you how to actually build a security report, right? That you can put on your GitHub, you can add to your profile. You can be like, wow, look how cool and awesome I am. There are some docs, like I said, in this PasswordStore repo that actually can teach you how to do that if you're interested. But yeah, in the future, we'll have another video outside of this one where we actually show you how to do a report. But for this video, yes, let's show you how to do a finding. And actually, let's start with, perfect. Let's say that gas finding that we just found is, let's say this competition did accept gas emissions, right? And let's pretend it's like a high critical or something, right? Let's pretend for some reason it's super, super important for that S owner to be mutable. So let me show a different screen here. Share screen. Oh, I should have changed my name, huh? Well, oh well. So here we go. We're in the contest. We go to our first flight repo. First flight repo. We can view the repo. We can see all the details here. You have to be signed in. You have to have a verified email to actually submit something. But what we can do, we just hit this submit finding button. And we scroll down. And I have not verified my email. Oh, yes, I have. I just needed to refresh it. I literally just verified it 2 seconds ago. So this is all the details that you're going to need for a submission. You're going to need a title, the severity, GitHub links, and the actual finding details. So let's say if we go to this view repo. Oh, thank you. Thank you for updating this, Travis. If we go to the PasswordStore, let's say we're saying, on this line right here, these 2 lines, this S password should be immutable. It should be unchangeable. Now, one of the first things we say, once we find something, typically what I'll do is I'll actually like comment right in my code base, right in my, after I've cloned it right in my code base, I'll put like a little comment. I'll do like a comment -- at audit. This should be immutable or something, right? Like I'll write right in the code base. I take notes in the code base. I do. You always want a place to kind of data dump your thoughts, right? So in my code base, I would have like at audit. This should be immutable. And what I'm going to have to do is docs.com. Let's go to the CodeHawks docs. Is we're going to have to figure out, okay, what is the severity of this finding, right? Okay, this should be immutable. Slither told me it should be immutable. I agree. I think it should be immutable. What I'm going to have to do is we're going to have to figure out, okay, what is the severity, right? Because when we go to submit our findings, we would call it like S owner should be immutable. Actually, I'm going to teach you guys a better way to come up with a title. For creating titles for findings, you want to do root cause plus impact. So this is kind of how you want to format your findings. So let me zoom in a little bit here so we can all see it. Root cause plus impact. So if we go here, what's the root cause of this? Okay. The root cause is the fact that we didn't set it as immutable. And the impact is it's a reduction in gas. So the root cause is going to be S owner not being set to immutable, and the impact is waste gas. Boom. Root cause, S owner not being set to immutable, impact, waste gas. And that's how you want to think about actually titling these. It's going to make judging your submission a lot easier. It's going to make your life a lot easier. So next, once we have a title, we want to figure out the severity. And we can go to the docs here and how to submit a finding. We have, where's the criteria? Sorry, I haven't been to the docs in a little bit. It's disqualification criteria. Severity. How to evaluate? Perfect. I just need to do that. How to evaluate a finding severity? Of course, there's an entire page for this, right? That makes sense right here. Boom. When identifying vulnerabilities in a code base, we look at 3 severities: high, medium, or low. And we use this matrix of likelihood versus impact, right? So what is the likelihood that it's going to happen versus how much damage is it going to do? And that will give us the impact, right? So if it's a high likelihood, high impact, it's a high. If it's a low likelihood, low impact, it's a low, right? And here's kind of here's kind of a good rule of thumb on how to figure out high impact. It is a little bit subjective, but basically you can think of something as high impact is going to be funds are directly or nearly at risk, or there's severe disruption of the protocol's functionality or availability. Medium impact is funds might be indirectly at risk. There's some level of disruption of the protocol's main functionality. Low impact, there's funds are not at risk. However, a function might be wrong, a state might not be handled correctly, events might not be admitted, etc. Likelihood is kind of, likelihood. high likelihood is like maybe a hacker can call a single function and steal the money directly, right? Like if there's just a glaring vulnerability, anybody could walk up and steal it. That's high. Medium likelihood is when the conditions have to be kind of just right for it to be exploitable. That's, for example, a peculiar ERC20 is used on the platform. That might be a good example of like a medium likelihood. Low likelihood is unlikely to occur. An example might be, hard to change variable set to this very unique specific value on a very specific block, right? There's some weird blocks, and we have some examples below to give you more ideas of what levels of severity are. For this one, we know for a fact this would not be high, medium, or low. This would be gas. This doesn't have this, if we go back to the matrix, okay, what's the impact on this? The impact is incredibly low, right? It wastes a little bit of gas. The likelihood of this is high. So technically one could argue this could be a medium, but it's just gas efficiency. The impact is so, like, maybe we should even put like another thing here. Like the impact is like infinitesimally small. It's like the impact is so unimportantly low that it basically doesn't matter. So for this one, it would actually be gas, but let's just say we thought it was low risk, right? And if you want to submit this as a finding for this specific competition, go ahead, even though you know that it's not actually a low risk. This is a gas finding. If you want to just practice submitting one, great, go for it. So next, relevant GitHub links. This is important. This is where we say, hey, these are the lines of code this actually happens on. So what we would do is on GitHub here, we can actually click one of these links, right? We could do copy permalink, or actually more importantly down here, let's do this one. Click copy permalink. We could actually click both of them. Actually, I'm going to do both of them. Paste it in. We're going to do add another link. Come back here. We're going to click this one as well. Copy permalink and paste it in here. So these are the kind of the two lines of code that are incredibly important, right? And actually, if I copy paste this into the browser, you'll see it actually directs me right to this line, right? You see these little three dots. If we do the same thing with this one, copy paste it, directs me right to this line, right? So when you want to think about the judges who are going to be judging this, you want to make their life as easy as possible, because at the end of the day, we want to make the protocol's life as easy as possible. So we want to give them every piece of evidence as to why this is an issue that needs to be submitted and why this is an issue that needs to be fixed. Because that, at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. We're here to fix the protocol. We're here to make the protocol better. We have some comments. Let me see if there's any questions before I keep going. How do you follow from start if it is 1,000 lines of code? Exactly the way we just did it, but with 1,000 lines of code. We'll do more examples in the future. This is small. Some of the future first flights are larger code bases. Hawks eat bugs. Hawks eat bugs. I found this issue manually. Amazing. Immutability won't allow to change the password, right? So yes, but if the owner doesn't change, the owner doesn't need to change. So that's what this finding is. It's the owner, right? If we go to this, S owner not being immutable, not the password. Yes, if the password is mutable, it wouldn't be able to change. Are we expected to submit anything, even QA or gas optimizations for this competition? No, no gas optimizations for this one. There are some pretty glaring vulnerabilities with this code base, so let's focus on those ones. Does submitting on Codex will publicly visible on issues tab on GitHub repo? It used to be. We are actually working on a brand new judging platform that might not do that anymore. So stay tuned. Valid findings for first flights are high, medium, low. Thank you, Aquarius. Is there an ETA and security course? Less than 30 days. Eventually, this is the case once judging is complete. During contest submissions are private. Yep. I saw a few issues displayed on GitHub repo now too. Travis, can we lock down the GitHub repo? Oh, well, yep. Thanks for finding that, Mike. Look at me. I am the root cause now. Has Patrick even judged, though? I actually streamed judging for many, many, many hours. Yes. There's a couple of videos of me like staying up way too late trying to finish judging. Is learning to be a Web3 dev the same skill set becoming an auditor? If you're learning one, are you learning the other? I would argue that you need to be a decent Solidity dev in order to be a good smart contract security researcher. There are a lot of security researchers that are actually pretty mid, like not very good developers. But some of the best ones that I know are both amazing developers and amazing security researchers. But the skill set is a little bit different, right? The security researcher, you have an attack. How do I attack this code base? For a developer, you're like, how do I defend this code base? How do I write tests? They are slightly different, but they go hand in hand, right? Learning one will inevitably help you with the other one. We need to fork and provide links or as an issue on the main. No, don't link to your own code bases. Always link to the actual code base of the competition. Or if you're doing a private audit, always link to the actual code base of the code base. Okay, great. Now, down here, we have findings. So this is kind of the format for submitting a finding. You want to do summary, vulnerability details, impact, tools used, and then recommendations. So the summary, this is obviously going to be like what's wrong with the issue, right? So this is kind of where we can put in our own words, like a little bit longer than this. What's going on? And we might say something like, and I'm going to show you some really fancy. Oh, and this is Markdown, by the way. So I'm going to show you some really fancy Markdown stuff. So here's what I would do. I would do like just saying using. Should have written these beforehand. Oh, I did write these beforehand. Hold on, let me pull up my cheat sheet. I forgot that I actually already audited this. Well, oh wait, but I didn't do the gas. I didn't close the gas. So hold on one second. So what I might do is I'll say for the description. Okay, there we go. I'll say, or the summary or description, and here's how I'll actually typically refer to variables. I'll do like the name of the contract, 2 semicolons, and then the name of the variable or function. So I'll say the S owner variable in the PasswordStore variable is unable to be changed, and therefore should be immutable to save S. Something like that. Like this is a simple enough finding that I don't really need to be too verbose. Your job here is to prove to the as succinctly as possible, explain to the protocol why this is an issue, right? Yes, this is a competition, but at the end of the day, your job is to teach them how to be safer, how to be more secure, right? Is to explain why they need to fix this. So the PasswordStore S owner variable is unable to be changed, and therefore should be immutable to save gas. We will do some vulnerability details. So these 3 backticks are Markdown. And what I might do is I might do a little line here where I'll say, I'll put like a diff. You'll see how this formats in a second. And I'll just put this will show up really cool in Markdown. You'll see in a second. But we'll say we want to remove this line and change it to private immutable. Like that's it. Or excuse me, this is actually the recommendation. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So the recommendation is like what the protocol should do to fix this, to make this safer moving forward. I would then probably go into saying, okay, since it's immutable, they should change it to iOwner, but I'm not going to do that for now. But for the vulnerability details, I might even just copy paste, Slither's output. If a variable ever changes, then reading, reading from storage is less gas efficient, and instead we should read from the bytecode using an immutable variable. And this is like way too verbose for this because this is one of these findings that's like kind of obvious. But we're going to go a little bit verbose here. Using an immutable variable will enable the protocol to save gas on reading the PasswordStore S owner. Impact wastes gas. Now this is, so for this, again, this is a pretty simple code base. And then actually I might even do like, might even post like this, maybe I'll even grab, sometimes I'll even grab like a line. And then I'll like do like a little point thing here. At here. Just to make it very obvious. You'll see when this formats, just to make it very obvious, hey, we're pointing to this line here. Impact waste gas. Now this is a really important section. This is where it is your job to prove why you've selected the severity that you've selected. You need to prove the likelihood and impact here. And this is where oftentimes people will write tests. Maybe I'll even go back into the code base if I don't think the judges will accept my test, and I'll write a whole test suite and I'll print out how much gas before and how much gas after. This is where you want to prove the impact. Hey, the impact is it wastes gas. The more specific you get, the better. Waste X gas, right? How much gas does it actually waste? How can you prove? How can you prove it? You could also do it in vulnerability details. You could prove it up here. Here is my proof of code. Maybe I'll write some Foundry tests to actually prove the actual issue. But the burden of proof is on you. So a lot of people will do these audits and they'll go, oh, I found a reentrancy, a potential reentrancy, and they just submit like a potential reentrancy and call it a day. The thing is, you have to prove to the protocol why they should fix it. If you do not do a good job of proving to the protocol why they should fix it, they're going to disagree with you. They're not going to fix it, and you are not going to make them safer. So you want to have that in mind. How do I prove to the protocol and also prove to the judges that this is an issue that needs to be fixed? You want to put as much proof in here as possible, while being as succinct as possible. So if I was going to be, extra hardo mode here, what I would do is I would rewrite the PasswordStore code base. I would make this immutable, and then it looks like we're over. I'm going to speed up. Sorry, I'll be very quick. I'm going to speed this up. We're at time here. Make this very succinct. Prove my case, right? Then tools used. I might be like, Slither, Foundry, whatever. Recommendations. Set owner to immutable. And then boom, then I would hit submit finding. Cool. Now in Codocs, I can actually see my finding. I can view it. And what's cool is I can actually preview it. And now we can see kind of that formatting coming in, right? You see how this looks really nice. We're pointing to this line here. We've got these two GitHub links. We've got the severity. And that diff that I was showing you, this is like really nice. Here's my recommendation. Delete this line and add this immutable keyword, right? Like that's the diff here. So that's how you do submission. And now you can see all your submissions in your My Report section. And that's pretty much it. So we're over time here, but I will take any last minute questions. I think Jules might have to jump here. Oh, no.
Yeah, solid. Thank you so much, Patrick, for that. There were some questions coming up, but I think you answered most of them. One that came up was regarding needing to submit proof of concepts. I think you went through that within the impact.
You absolutely should is the answer. Like you want to make it it's like there's no doubt that your issue is an issue, and here's the proof. The ownership of the burden of proof is on you. You need to prove that this is an issue. A proof of code, code base, a test that proves this is one of the best ways to actually do that. Because if your submission gets closed, gets marked as inaccurate, the protocol doesn't fix it because they didn't believe you. At the end of the day, that's your fault, right? So,
Nice.
yes.
Thank you so much. A few more, and then we'll have to call it a day. Here, Karina says, if we need to add or modify an entire logic of the function, should we link all its lines or just the function signature?
It case by case basis. If it's just a couple lines, just do the couple lines. If it's the whole function, you can actually, there's a way to like drag that, I showed that copy permalink. You can actually drag it and copy a whole bunch of lines. You can do that too. But the more specific you can get, the better. Can you please show the markdown that should show up, that would show the code with the line number and the file name? ChatGPT might have the answer to that. They might do the numbers manually. I don't know. I would have to go figure that out. So you use diff instead of JavaScript for the empty file? Yes. So the diff thing is makes it show like this, which is really nice. Like delete this line, add this line. So that's what the diff does. Can't wait for the sneak peek to this. This actually is a sneak peek. This is going to be one of the first things we go over. Thank you, Patrick and Julianne, for going over this. Absolutely. Is the diff only for the minus plus comparison? Correct. If you discover that the proposed business logic can be improved, can you include this as a finding in the audit report? Great question. Yes, but it probably won't get accepted. So a lot of times protocols, this is a security review, right? If I say yes, yeah, you can do that. What happens is a ton of people just submit a ton of different implementations on how to do the business logic, and they say, "Oh, this is security," but it's just a different way of doing it, right? So yes, you can submit it, but please don't. Only security stuff. Only security. I mean, you can submit whatever you want, but like only security stuff. It will probably not get accepted. It'll probably be a waste of your time.
Nice. Well, I think we're up in the hour. Thank you so much, Patrick, for taking us through this. Thank you guys for your questions. It really shaped a lot of what we did today. So appreciate you being here. If you have any upcoming questions, we're on Discord, we're on Twitter, we're around. So hopefully we get to smashing all these bugs. This is a great way to just get into the auditing landscape that is very much needed to make sure that we create a Web3 that is safer and that we can actually hype up to our grandmas and the upcoming generation. So thanks, Patrick, for that rundown. And we'll see you guys at the next one.